The Earnestly Speaking podcast is a show that is founded on free-flowing conversation and may at times venture into mature subjects. Listener discretion is advised.
First Week of Podcast coming to you on a special Friday edition of the podcast on November 4th, 2022. Don't normally record on Fridays. Don't record on Fridays, but I'm actually off today. And there's so much going on, even in the last, 24 hours in sports. That can't wait till a Sunday reaction podcast, if I even get to do a Sunday reaction podcast, or next Tuesday. Some things just can't wait. And if I get the time to get it in and get some content in, some of my thoughts out, I'm going to do so. I'm actually, this is not going to be a long one. I'm going to try to get this around to 20-ish minutes. We'll see. I say that, but you know how this thing goes. And then we're going to talk about Kyrie Irving in a second. Lots about the Nets and Kyrie Irving and this on again, off again controversy on the, obviously he didn't say it, but obviously the anti-Semitic, documentary / book that he quote unquote promoted. I still don't consider that promoting. I know people say, "Oh, well, you're a slow figure." We'll get to that in a second. But I want to touch on one NFL thing real quick because we did have a game last night. The Philadelphia Eagles remain undefeated, 8-0 now, defeating the Houston Texans. Hey, Texans showed up. That score, 29-17, not really indicative of the game. They were in that game all the way through. I mean, that game was, I think, a tied at halftime, I believe. I think Texas was down by 4 and into 3. That was a close game going into like the middle of the fourth quarter. The Texans have been fighters this year. I know they've been the bottom of my power rankings the last couple of weeks, but they've been fighters. And the parity in this league, this year has been fantastic. And we need to give more credit for the bad teams showing up and doing some bad teams we thought this year would be bad are actually. 2 of them in first place, the Falcons and the Seahawks. Who would have thought? But this is about the Eagles here. They're 8-0 now. And I know I did this one time early in the year with the Buffalo Bills about the 17-0 thing when I think they were 2-0 at the time. And I was saying, is it possible? And it only came up because of the schedule. But the Eagles are unbeaten, though. They're still unbeaten. They're 8-0. And I know people are going to say, why are you doing this again? This is this stupid narrative talk. It's not going to happen. But I'm going to talk about it anyway because I want to. And the reason why I think it's still something worth getting into a little bit is that Eagles schedule is looking quite tastier now. In a sense where if you are to take week to week, the teams are playing going forward, I think there's an argument to be made that if this team continues to play at a high level, that it isn't out of the realm of possibility. Now, you ask me, do I think the Eagles are going to go 17-0? Are they going to go 17-0? My opinion? No, they're not going to. Because a lot of times, the loss, these teams that go out to a 7-0, 8-0, 10-0, 12-0, 13-0 start, that first loss is when you least expect it. It's not always the obvious team. People say, well, it's a tough team that's like in the conversation. That's a playoff team. A lot of times it's a team that's like a team that's a 500 or worse. Remember the Denver Broncos 1998? I think they were 13-0, 14-0. And the schedule broke right for them. And they lost their first game on, I think, week 15 to the New York Giants. A Giants team that at that time, going to that game was 5-8. Or 5-9, 1-2. Sub-500 team, definitely. And Kent Graham. I remember that game too. And the Broncos lost 2 games in a row. They lost to the Giants and also the Dolphins the week after that too. Now, of course, they ended up winning the Super Bowl anyway. It was all said and done. But the point is, you go through the schedules and people say, oh, well, it's too easy. Look, their schedule moving forward is interesting. So, moving forward, they have the Washington Commanders next on the schedule. That should be a win. But of course, we got to respect the visual optics here, of course. Indianapolis Colts in Indy. Colts are falling apart. That should be a win. Home against Green Bay. We know Green Bay's not good, but it's not Aaron Rodgers, so you got to respect that. Tennessee Titans at home as well, too. Tennessee's first place in the AFC South. Their style play could give them issues. We'll see. At New York Giants, obviously 6-2. Divisional optics, of course, got to respect that as well. Should win that game, though. Who knows? Chicago Bears at home. Justin Fields. Anything? It should be a win there, right? At Dallas. That's the one I think is the. If I had to put an obvious loss on this schedule, that's the one there at Dallas. Assuming Dallas is healthy, of course, going forward. Then, of course, close it out against the Saints. Should be a win. And then at the Giants, at home against the Giants, a game they may not even need by then. So here's the thing about that, too. Here's the thing about all that. You look at the schedule, you say, oh, well, the chances are good. I think some of the games look at, though, that could trip up. Okay. I would obviously put all the divisional games on notice because of, the optics of that. Green Bay, despite the struggles, should be the game to look out for because it's Aaron Rodgers still. Tennessee, style play. They're still a good team. Not a great team, but a good team. Of course, Dallas, of course, at Dallas, that's probably the obvious loss. But this is also why I said a couple weeks ago on the podcast that the reason why I'm already there at the Eagles being number one seed in the NFC is the schedule. To me, it's a lock for me that they're number one seed in the NFC going forward. But this schedule it's pretty tasty. Like it's this team should lose no more than 2 games, maybe 3 games, based on the schedule. Now, the Eagles are not playing perfect football; they're playing good football. They're not perfect. There's things out there that I'm sure they need to work on. But Jalen Hurts is definitely an MVP candidate. They play fantastic. And for me personally, as a guy who works for the New York Giants, you think this is actually something I'm comfortable praising the Eagles? No, of course not. But I'm also being honest here. This team has been fantastic this year. They are the favorites to go to the Super Bowl in the NFC. Although I still argue San Francisco will give them issues if they're healthy by then. But I don't think 17-0. While I agree it will not happen. That's my guesstimate. I don't think you can necessarily rule it out either, just based on what I just read to you. That's all I'm saying. Anyway, let's get to the Kyrie Irving thing. The Nets last night suspend Kyrie Irving for 5 games, for at least 5 games was stated on the statement released last night by I think it was Joe Tsai, president of the club. Let me read the statement in its full context because I think the statement is very interesting here. All right, here we go. Over the last several days, we have made repeated attempts to work with Kyrie Irving to help him understand the harm the harm and dangers of his words and actions, which began with him publicizing a film containing deeply disturbing anti-Semitic hate. We believe that taking the path of education in this challenging situation would be the right one, and thought that we had to make progress with our joint commitment to eradicating hate and intolerance. These next 2 paragraphs are what are most telling for me. We were dismayed today that when given an opportunity in the media session that Kyrie refused to unequivocally say that he has no anti-Semitic beliefs, nor acknowledge specific hateful material in the film. This was not the first time he had the opportunity, but failed to clarify. Such failures to disavow anti-Semitism when given a clear opportunity to do so is deeply disturbing, is against the values of our organization, and constitutes conduct detrimental to our team. Accordingly, we are of the view that he is clearly unfit to be associated with the Brooklyn Nets. We have decided that Kyrie will serve a suspension without pay until he satisfies a series of objective remedial measures that address the harmful impact of his conduct, and the suspension period served is no less than 5 games. That is the statement by the Brooklyn Nets. Worth noting that Kyrie Irving did apologize literally 2 hours after that statement was put out. Let me say this real quick. You know me, I've been saying all along, free speech, all that. Now, let's be clear, Kyrie Irving never made actual statements. What Kyrie Irving did was actually share, retweet, whatever the hell it was, a documentary film / book that supposedly has that kind of rhetoric inside of it. I'll say it again. The problem I have with Kyrie Irving here in this situation, and I see both sides of the argument because people support him and think he's being relegated to not having free speech. the issue people have isn't necessarily about the retweeting part, because he had a chance to explain himself when given the opportunity, and also to denounce anti-Semitism. Is that he doubled down the first time by not saying anything, not knocking it, of course, and hardened himself, and then did it again a second time, which led people to believe that maybe there's some truth to that. Now, look, you ask my opinion, is he an anti-Semite? I don't think so. I think Kyrie Irving, in some cases, probably is well-intentioned, but also acts like someone who thinks he's smarter than the entire room. I would say Kyrie Irving is a little less harmful than Kanye West in a lot of ways. Just my opinion. You have to agree with that, but it's my opinion. But at the same time, what bothers me about Kyrie Irving, too, and I said in the podcast over the week, I'll say it again, is that if you're going to do things like this and be, as you say, the voice for the voiceless, when people have something to say to you that may counter your argument, and you are a supposed free thinker of this world, that your way of handling this is to double down on what you said, instead of holding yourself accountable, and still being that person to have a discussion. That's the issue. Okay? And because of your, I'm sorry, it was stupidity. All you gotta do is apologize. How hard is it to say sorry? How hard is it to say sorry? That being said, I thought about this now too, because he's a free agent at the end of this year. And basketball talent aside, I still do argue that as a fantastic and as box office as Kyrie Irving is as a talent, he is still really overrated. And he isn't, in a lot of ways, I don't think he's worth the headache. And this is before we get into even before we consider this part, between the vaccine stuff and him, just the random things he does and says that causes issue to a ball club. You can go back to the Boston Celtics. Go back to the way he left Cleveland with LeBron. And then the Celtics, he goes to Boston. And the way that 1 year was handled. 2 years he was there. It was the way he carried himself. I'm not saying he was a bad teammate, but he was not someone you consider a leader. Some can argue maybe a cancer to the team, although I hate using that word. But at the same time, he's not someone that's worth the investment. Plus, you can't stay healthy on top of that too. So one has to acknowledge here that we could be seeing the end of Kyrie Irving in the NBA after this season. Now, again, he said apologized, but some of this could be a little too late. Did he apologize now because now he's suspended 5 games without pay? Without pay? Who knows? Because now it feels like it was a forced apology. And, I think this is I think as a free agent, whether the Nets trade him this year or they cut him or whatever, buy him out, are there teams clamoring at this point to have that guy on their roster, knowing the risks they're going to take on with him, as talented as he is? Because the guy is box office talent. I argue he's one of the 5 best players to watch individually in this league. This is from a pure talent. One of the best players to score the basketball in the league. But is he worth the trouble? Is he worth the trouble at 30 years old, especially, too? I'm saying he's old, but, does Kyrie get better after this, beyond this? I don't think so. As good as he is. So I don't know. We could be seeing the Kyrie Irving in the NBA. And this whole Nets thing's been a mess. I mean, this is easily, for me, the most unlikable sports team in a 1, 2, 3 year sample probably I've ever seen. People talk about the Miami Heat and the Heatles and the Big Three Heat, and they still showed up and played. This team is easily unlikable. You blow the damn thing up. One more thing also too about the whole documentary that was on Amazon. Are we going to talk about Jeff Bezos and his standing on this? Again, I'm not saying that he did the documentary and all that, and he know about it till now probably. But Jeff Bezos, the CEO of Amazon, there's been zero criticism towards him about this. And I'm not saying he has to be criticized across the board, because he wasn't the one espousing the rhetoric nor retweeting anything else of that kind. But no one's criticizing him. It's on his platform. The movie's still there. Why? I'm not saying that he has to take out the movie, because again, it's his right to free speech as well too, and it's his platform. I'm just criticizing people going out at Kyrie only when the owner and founder of Amazon, who provides a platform for this, has it there, and no one's saying anything about him. That's all I'm saying. So, Kyrie out at least 5 games, maybe more. We'll see. Wow, what a mess this has been. This has been such a fucking mess for the Nets. Some more NBA news here. James Harden, Sixers guard, out a month with a foot injury. This could be good. It could be bad for the Sixers. I don't know. Obviously, not having one of the best players is not good for the Sixers, obviously. But I do think also too, as I've been saying, that maybe this is the opportunity for Tyrese Maxey to take the next step up to being the number 2 guy on the roster, scoring option, if you will. But this is not going to help the Sixers, obviously. I mean, in the East right now, there's a lot of competitive teams right now in the conference. If you miss a couple games here and there, and you lose a couple games here and there, you could find yourself being in a situation where you're probably playing for a play-in situation as opposed to the playoffs. That's going to be something to look at. The Warriors also, too, lost 4 games in a row. Is it time to panic? I would say a little bit. We did the podcast on Tuesday with Thursday rather, with Zach and Chris about the NBA panic meter for the Warriors, and I had that at 2. Now I'm putting a little bit of 4 now, because you lose 4 games in a row. You had 1 game on the road all year long. Look, they're champs. I think they have the best situation to figure it out. But I don't know. I think there's some things to look at there that could be an issue. I think what's clear is that when I mentioned over the offseason, Vegas had the win-loss number at 51, 52 wins rather, and I was saying it was way too low. It should have been a steal to go over. I think now I understand why Vegas had that low. I now understand why, and it's probably going to end up being the under on that. But the Warriors struggling out the gate now too. James Harden out in a month. So a lot of really good teams that are contenders that we thought were contenders coming to the year struggling out the gate here. The Heat, the Warriors, the Sixers. It's going to be very interesting to see how things play out in the next month or so. The baseball quick here. Well, actually, no. One more thing on the Lakers. Lakers 1-2 in a row now. Are they figuring it out? I don't know. We'll see. That's a couple games or so. The Russell Westbrook off the bench thing has worked so far. He's been still very, very productive. He seems to be doing the right thing, saying the right thing so far. But will it sustain going forward? I don't know. That's the big question. I mean, defensively speaking, there's still a stalwart of the team. But the main issue to the Lakers so far has been the fact that they can't shoot the damn basketball. Nothing's changed there. They still need shooters. They still need to trade Russ out of there. That's the only asset they have that can move. But we'll see. We'll see how it works out. Some baseball here. World Series. The Astros win Game 5. They're now on the brink of winning the World Series title. I feel like I'm the only man in America that's not an Astros fan necessarily, but rooting for the Astros to win this series. Because everybody's rooting against the Astros because obvious reasons. The cheating scandal, the trash, the trash throws, what do we call it? And everybody's look. It is what it is. I mean, I probably should for the Phillies in this series. But I'm a Mets fan. I'm a disgruntled Mets fan, in fact. I hate the Phillies. I can't do it. I just can't I can't naturally bring myself to doing that. And why would I do that? Why would I force something that I don't want to happen that way? So I think the Astros closes out, honestly, Game 6. I think Game 6 is tomorrow, I believe. But we'll see. Once in a while, real quick, also how YouTube has changed the way I look at daily content now. You guys know, I'm starting to really, not just as a curator, rely on YouTube to put out my work. By the way, check out my YouTube page. Of course, I Earnestly Christian on YouTube. We're now well over 110 subscribers now on there. We're trying to grow that thing. We're growing slowly, but we're still growing it. But I also use YouTube a lot to watch content. And I'm talking about content that I would typically watch on TV. For example, ESPN or Fox Sports, any of my sports shows I like to watch. I'm guilty pleasure. I love watching First Take. I love watching all the ESPN shows. I love watching all the Fox Sports shows, FS1 shows. Even Dan Patrick and Rich Eisen and Pat McAfee and all those stuff. I also listen to a lot of podcasts. But I've noticed too a lot of podcasts to listen to as well. If you go on YouTube, you can watch clips of the shows. Because again, there's only 24 hours in a day. 8 hours of those I have to sleep. A chunk of the 16 left over, I'm either working or deal with my family. So there's only so much time to watch everything. So what I do normally with YouTube, especially, and I've done this probably the last month or so. This actually started for me in during the basketball playoffs. Is what I would do is I would go through like ESPN's clips between the ESPN, NBA and ESPN, NFL, ESPN. Take the clips on there that I feel was interesting to me. Make a daily playlist, and just watch it all the way through. But what I've done also too is that it's got me to starting to get back into some of the old shows I used to listen to back in the day. I will clip off some of Dan Patrick's material from his daily show. I'll clip out stuff from the Rich Eisen show, dude. I mean, I've always been a Rich Eisen fan, even back to ESPN, and I was one of the first listeners to Rich Eisen podcast way back in the day on NFL Network. But I kind of cooled off on sports radio a little bit in recent years. The Rich Eisen show is so underrated. The Rich Eisen show is amazing, and I really enjoy listening to his content on YouTube. And he has maybe 8, 9, 10 clips a day. I'll clip out, put it to the side on a playlist and just run through it at nighttime when I'm like putting kids to bed or I'm trying to relax a little bit and just kind of settle down. Man, Rich Eisen show's amazing. Pat McAfee there as well too. I'll take all the clips from his show. Puts about 3 or 4 a day. Obviously Colin Cowherd. I've actually started listening to his show on there as opposed to listen to the podcast. What else I do? Oh, First Things First with FS1 with which by the way First Things First now, especially with Nick Wright, Chris Broussard, and then you have I think it's Kevin Wiles as the host now. The show is great the way it is now, especially, and they move time slots too on top of that, which they're now an afternoon show as opposed to a morning show. They used to be a 6:30 a.m. show, now they're a 3 o'clock in the afternoon show. Their show now, especially the last couple months, has been fantastic. They put out 3 clips a day. I'll clip those into my playlist and I'll listen to those as well. Typically, I've told you guys I cooled off with Bill Simmons recently. I'll listen to Simmons according to guests or whatever conversation he's having, but he'll have clips on his own YouTube show, on YouTube channel. I'll clip off of that. Some of the Ringer stuff on there as well too. NFL.com I'll do as well too. YouTube has changed the way I view daily content now. Like I actually, people say, why do you pay for YouTube? Because I pay for YouTube Premium because I don't want the ads. No one, and because I invest a lot of time on YouTube with watching, even some of the political shows on CNN or The Hill, or whatever it may be. I invest a lot of time on YouTube, which is why I feel like I should pay for it because I'm saving a lot of time by doing that. I don't mind it. I don't mind it at all. So, but YouTube has changed a lot of the way I look at TV today. Like I would dare say, I watch more YouTube daily content than I do anything else. The only thing I watch on TV these days, honestly, is the games themselves. Even I was subscribed to Joel Klatt's college football podcast. I sometimes I don't want to go through the entire podcast, and they'll have clips available for me on the YouTube page. I'll just clip out and listen to and save time on there. So, YouTube has changed the game for me, man. It really has. It really, 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 really has. As I said on the show yesterday too. Also, my wife's out of town for a couple of days. She's ran it. She actually completed the race in 2 hours. She did a great job. She sent some pictures of this morning, up in Orlando, in Disney World, the Disney race. I don't remember the name of it actually, but she's out of town this couple of days. She's back tonight actually, I think. So while she's out of town, I kind of went old school last night. What I'm saying is that. So before I got married and before I even met her, I was single, had my own place. I would always sleep with the TV on, and what I would normally do is I have old school wrestling, like WWF, WWE wrestling, in the background. I'll fall asleep to it and leave it on in the background. So last night, because now normally when my wife and I when we fall asleep, she'll have on the TV as well too, but she'll have on her shows. She'll have on either Friends or lately she'll have it on The Nanny on the show on there too. She'll have on whatever shows that or Scrubs. Scrubs is one of our favorite background noise shows to fall asleep to. For me growing up, it was the WWE. So I'll play the WWE, WF, old school. What I did last night, I fell asleep, and I had on the old Saturday Night's Main Event episode in there. But what I did is I set up to where I had on the March 1988 edition of Saturday Night Main Event. I started there, and just let it run the entire night. And I woke up with being a year later into the March 1989 edition of Saturday Night Main Event, and I woke up to Bobby Heenan and Ravishing Rick Rude preparing for a match against I think it was Brutus Beefcake, and got me thinking too. Also, Bobby Heenan, the GOAT, the greatest manager in history of pro wrestling, the greatest manager by far. I know Paul Heyman gets a lot of love, and I think Paul Heyman's right there in the conversation with him too. But Paul Heyman's only, I mean, to my knowledge, I know Paul Heyman managed CM Punk, obviously Brock Lesnar, and a couple of. Think of the guys that Bobby Heenan put over that probably never gotten over anywhere else. Okay, guys like Hercules, guys like Brooklyn Brawler for a little while, guys like Rick Rude. Although Rick Rude really was a fantastic character. You know, Haku. Bobby Brain Heenan, to me, the reason why I take him over anybody in history of the business is because he made so many guys that probably never would have done anything in pro wrestling, but because he was their mouthpiece, he was incredible. And me waking up to him, I think he was at the time he also was feuding with not just with managing Rick Rude, but he's also feuding with Terry Taylor, the Red Rooster, and he got Brooklyn Brawler over in that feud. Made that a kind of a cool feud in early '89. Man, Bobby Heenan was amazing, man. Bobby Heenan was fantastic. Obviously, we lost Bobby a couple years ago. But yeah, it was kind of cool waking up, because my wife's at home. So waking up at 6:30 in the morning and waking up to pro wrestling on the TV and see Bobby Heenan. And their first thing is see Bobby Heenan yelling at Rick Rude and yelling at Bruce Beefcake and getting involved in that match. And Andre's coming down and interrupting the match and all that. And it's got me thinking, man, dude, Bobby Heenan is this amazing. I still don't know. Like I said, I don't know. He's my favorite manager of all time because my favorite manager of all time actually is Slick, Dr. Style Slick, because he's just slick, But the greatest manager of all time is Bobby Heenan, bar none. So anyway, that will do for this quick edition of the podcast. We went 27 minutes, not bad. Okay, I'm on Twitter at EJ Christian 7. Earnestly podcast across all podcast catchers. Guys, of course, check out my YouTube page at Ernest EJ Christian. And hopefully we will do a Sunday night reaction podcast to Week 9 in the NFL. Like I said, we'll not promise anything like last week. I didn't get through last week, but hopefully on Sunday night I'll be able to do one. So anyway, till then, we'll talk to you guys soon, and enjoy your weekend in the meantime. Enjoy football, and especially enjoy Tennessee and Georgia on Saturday afternoon. Later.